There has never been a better time than right now to learn to use your nursing knowledge to actually grow what it is that you're able to actually earn. And in today's masterclass, we're going to be walking through the three myths that you need to overcome as a nurse entrepreneur in order to be able to be successful in building your business, as well as the three-step process that I have used to build what is now a six-figure consulting agency that has netted me over $200,000 in revenue over the past 22 months. For those who I haven't had the privilege of getting to know so far, or that we haven't actually connected directly, my name is Timmy Abiola, and I am a registered nurse who has built multiple businesses that have actually supplemented what it is that I'm able to earn by a very significant margin. And in today's masterclass, there's only just one thing that I'm going to ask of you guys, and I want you to be honest with me. If at the end of today's masterclass, what it is that I share with you is valuable and that it actually made a difference for you, I would just like your permission to share something with you that will give you an opportunity to go to the next level and actually implement what it is that we're talking about. Do I have your permission to do that? Just let me know in the chat if I do. And I said, we got lots of good engagement in the chat already. This is going to be a great masterclass. If I have your permission, just let me know. Just say yes. Just say yes in the chat if I've got your permission to share an offer with you. And again, only if this is valuable. At the end of the day, we're not going to be sharing anything if it's not going to be valuable. So I need to know. All right. Estelle says yes. All right. Thara also says yes. Okay. We got a few people are down. So in that case, why don't we just go ahead and get started? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to walk through a couple different ideas. And I always love engaging with people in the comments. And so if you have any thoughts, ideas, anything that stands out to you, just make sure you drop that in the chat as we go along. All right. Everybody should be able to see this. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can multitask here. Let's see. Maybe not. All right. So, of course, we're here because we're trying to learn about how to turn our bedside experience into a business opportunity. And it really just comes down to ensuring that you are getting paid what it is that you're truly worth. The reality is that there is no job that will allow you to be able to achieve that. So what we can do instead is walk through how it is that we have the ability to grow something that is uniquely ours. And I'm curious to know if this sounds like anybody here today. I feel like my nursing career has hit a ceiling and that I'm ready for something more. Does that sound like you? Or perhaps this is more like you. I feel undervalued and underprepared, or underpaid rather, for the expertise I have developed over the years. Does that resonate with anybody here? Or maybe this. I know I have valuable knowledge, but I don't know how to turn it into income. I want to create additional income streams while keeping my nursing license. If I could monetize my expertise, I could have the financial freedom that I deserve. And lastly, I want to start a business, but don't know where to begin. Well, who am I? And why am I yapping about this today? Well, I've been a registered nurse for 10 years, the founder of Enlightened Informatics, co-founder and COO of Compathia AI, and the founder of Enlightened Media Collective. So I built three businesses, all of which have had impact, two of which have become profitable. And so I know a couple things about what it takes to be able to do this that I look forward to sharing with you all today. So here's my journey. I started off with using what it was that I had to be able to get to where I needed to go to be able to do what I'm doing today. But that all just started with using my nursing knowledge, just like each and every one of you here. I'm not doing anything different or anything more special than you guys are. It all just starts out with beginning with where you are and using what you have. Let me stop sharing for a second so I can really emphasize this part here. There is no additional credentials. There is no additional degrees. There is nothing that you need in addition to what you already have to become qualified to start a business. And I had to just make sure that I really emphasize that nicely for you all. Because as we go through, I already know there's going to be some people that will say, Yeah, that worked well for you, but I can already hear it. But what I want to let you know is this: I too had doubts. I too had fears. I too felt like there was something else that I needed to be doing in order to be qualified for this. But what I've learned is that nurses, we make the best entrepreneurs. And the reason that we make the best entrepreneurs is because we are expert problem solvers. This is the only thing that matters for you to be able to do what it is that we're talking about today. So I just had to make sure I emphasize that real nicely so that each of you guys understand that as we go along. So I became a clinical informatics analyst in 2022. But prior to that, I'd been working as a pediatric bedside nurse. And to be honest, I actually still do work bedside every now and then. And the reason I like doing that is because it keeps my clinical skills sharp. And the reason that that's relevant is because part of the value that I have to add as a consultant, as a business owner, is using my clinical experience, skill set, and knowledge to be able to create a measurable difference. And that is powerful. Oh, wow. Still, I liked your comment so much, I kept it up there this whole time. Lauren, I see your question here. Is this only for RNs? Nope, not at all. The only requirement to be able to do what we're talking about today is the ability to legally start a business. That's it. That's it. That's all. And then in 2023 that's when I started my consulting business. Now, I had started Enlightened Media Collective prior to that, but what really started everything for me was understanding that I had a very particular skill set that allowed me to be able to step out and do something different, which we'll talk about in a moment. And so where we are today, I'm an agency owner, a consultant, 3 times over entrepreneur, and a business coach. But I only started with what I had, where I was, and that allowed me to get to where I am today. I see, Susie, your question here. Can it be an in-person business? Yes, it certainly can. And I'll tell you why I prefer online businesses, simply because it's less money to start. In-person businesses are phenomenal too. Of course, the vast majority of businesses fit into that category. So yes, the answer is yes. So what are my credentials? Why am I yapping to y'all on a Wednesday evening, talking like I know something? Because of results. That's the only thing that matters in business. I've made over $200,000 as a business owner. I've built 5 fully functional apps, and that has generated 5 figures of income for me as well. I do not have a development background. I'm a registered nurse just like y'all, or I'm a nurse just like y'all. Whether you're an LPN, whether you're an LVN, an RPN, an RN, an MP, a DMP, it doesn't matter. You have the skills because I've been able to do this with dozens of nurses at this point. So there isn't anything that's special about you, anything that's different. There's nothing that I've done that you can do. Estelle, I hear your question here, or I see your question. What doesn't matter what your background in healthcare is, even if you're a janitor. Well, personally, I'd say that the janitor probably is an expert problem solver too. I teach what I like to call principles, and principles are applicable everywhere. None of what I'm going to teach you is exclusive to nursing. It's just that the flavor, the flair that I put on what I do is nursing based because that's my background. Again, we're doing here is using what it is that we have to be able to achieve what we truly want. And Susie, I like the way that you're thinking here. Maybe online can fund your in person. Yes, sounds like you've got an existing business already. So we should probably connect after this. All right, let's carry along here. Freedom, flexibility, and financial independence. Let's define each one of these. Freedom, for me, is the ability to do what you want, when you want, however you want, with whomever you want, for whatever reason you want. That is the greatest measure of flexibility, but that is what I actually term to be financial independence. Financial independence gives you the ability to make decisions simply because you want to make those decisions, not because you are forced to, or you're compelled to, or you have bills to pay. If you don't go to work for a week, now the next paycheck comes around, you will not be able to have enough money to make your bill payments. And Tammy, I see that you resonated with this idea of freedom. Yes, I think that's probably why each and every one of us are here. Nursing is a powerful, powerful profession to go into. The privilege of being able to intervene in a meaningful way in people's lives when they're at the lowest of the low, or maybe celebrating the birth of a new baby, celebrating the end of somebody's life. That is very privileged. The reality is, though, by nature of the way society is going and has gone, it's not sustainable. There's no way that we'd be able to continually do what we're doing, be compensated what we're worth, and have the system actually survive. Bedside nurses are important, but if what you desire is freedom, flexibility, financial independence, you already know that your job's not going to deliver that, which is why you're here. And so I hope you're taking notes because you definitely going to need these later. Here's what we're covering today. We're debunking 3 myths that hold people back from ever starting. But I know that that's not going to be you guys, right? The second thing we'll be covering is the 3 steps that I used, that you will use to launch your business. And then we'll be talking about a concrete blueprint that you can use to create your first 5K in 90 days. Now, the reason why I love talking about this is because I've seen how well it works for other people. Forget about me for a second. But the true mark of success from my perspective is that you have the ability to take what has worked for you and to have it work for other people. So let's talk about that. First things first that we need to overcome is the myth that it's hard to come up with an idea that you can monetize strictly with your nursing knowledge. People tell me all the time, oh, I don't have any skills. I'm just a nurse. I'm just a nurse. We need to do away with that. I want you guys to be honest, though. Tell me, who here has ever said, I'm just a nurse? I'm not here to shame anybody. I just want to see if I'm the only one who had ever thought that before I discovered what I've discovered here. If you've ever said, I'm just a nurse, just say I or yes in the comments, or me. Tell the truth and shame the devil. I know I will be the first to say that I have caught myself saying that. When somebody thought, they asked me, oh, okay, are you the resident? I'm like, oh, actually, no, I'm just a nurse. And it just came out of my mouth before I even realized what I was saying. And I guarantee you that that's something that I will never catch myself saying again. And it's because of what we're talking about here. Yeah, Tammy, Estelle, like I said, tell the truth and shame the devil. I like this comment here is, in addition, you've never worked in a hospital setting as an RN. Sometimes that causes people to feel like they are less than. I'm going to tell you all the truth. I have never put in an IV in my entire life. Not one. I've put in 1 NG tube as a student over a decade ago. And the patient was coming off of general anesthetic. So they was not even conscious. I've never put in a Foley catheter. And yet, look at how I've been able to leverage my nursing knowledge to achieve what I'm achieving. So don't think that you are just a nurse. None of us here are just a nurse. We all have the ability to shape the world around us, and we've already been doing it. We're just not getting paid for the value we're adding. My story of how I started out my business is something that is probably pretty unexpected. My very first business offer was coaching for nurses who wanted to leave the bedside. Now, let me take this down for just a second so y'all can see me well here. The reason that I picked that was not because I was like, this is something that is a skill set for me. No, actually, I realized that I had a specific skill set when people started coming to me to say, hey, I know that you have gotten every job you've interviewed for, or you helped this person prep for an interview. I want you to help me too. The first few times, it was just my friends that were asking for that. But then eventually, other people that I wasn't necessarily close friends with would reach out to me, or they would say, hey, you're one of the charge nurses I work with the most. I have this upcoming interview. Would you be willing to give me a reference? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. I love giving people references. I got a really good reference when I was a kid. This is going to be a throwback for anybody else who's in Canada. There was a shop called Future Shop. They were owned by the same company as Best Buy, and they almost did that fake competition thing where it's like Best Buy or Future Shop. Now they're the same company. Future Shop's no longer around, and we still do have Best Buy in Canada. But this was not a job that high school kids typically would work at. And so I had a science teacher who wrote me a glowing recommendation, which ultimately allowed me to get that job. That's when I understood the power of being able to give good references and recommendations. And so I realized that helping somebody land a job, especially one that gives them better work life balance, that is a transformational experience. I'm saying that again. Helping somebody get a job or a new position that improves their quality of life by a pay increase or just more freedom and flexibility, the ability to work from home, that is a life altering experience for people. And that's not something to be trifled with. And each and every one of us on this call today have skills just like that, that we give away freely. People come to ask us for advice, and we're like, oh, yeah, do this. And people are achieving results, and people keep coming to you to ask about those things because of how well it worked out for them. But are you being paid for that? Are you being compensated for that? Is your true value being recognized? Probably not. People started recognizing it from me, and I'm very grateful for that. The truth is that each and every day, you're already solving problems that are worth tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars potentially. But I guarantee you that you're not being compensated for that. Why aren't you being compensated for that? The reason you're not being compensated for that is the system is not set up in such a way. We are used to trading our time for money. Fegni, I'm glad that you agree and that this is resonating with you. I know that Fegni is not the only one. If this is resonating with you and you feel like you also solve valuable problems, just let me know in the chat. Tell me, what are some of the problems that you guys solve each and every day? I'll give you some time to think about it. As you think about it, just drop it in the chat. But for me, I was really good at quality assurance, quality improvement, identifying safety issues on the inpatient child and adolescent unit where I worked for many years. I was very good at that. I kept people's children safe. I had the ability to identify risks proactively, not reactively. I'm a leader. I have the ability to lead during crisis moments. I respond well when the stakes are down and it's do or die, quite literally sometimes working in child and adolescent mental health. And these are skills that consultants, even CEOs, COOs, CFOs are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But the reality is that we do this each and every shift and we just don't think anything of it, because that's just what it means to be a nurse. That's just what I do as a nurse. I'm just doing my job. So, recommending great long-term care facilities, that is life-changing. When somebody has a family member that has to go into care, they probably have been fighting that decision for a long time, but they have gotten to the point where they truly can't care safely for their loved one anymore. And it's a time of sadness, a time of confusion, worry, a time of change. And being able to guide people through that is powerful. And in fact, I actually know people who are in that consulting space. They built a business around helping you get your loved one to the best long-term care facility for them. So I'm telling you right now, that is a validated offer that if you're already skilled at that, there's a huge market for you. Myth number 2, you need certifications or an MBA to start a business. This is one of the most nefarious lies. The only requirement, and I want you guys to hear me well, the only requirement to do what we're talking about today is the ability to legally start a business where you are. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. If you're on a visitor's visa in North America, you're not allowed to start a business. But if you are a permanent resident, you're a citizen, that's usually all there is that is required to start a business. And so as long as you got that, you're good to go. Your nursing license and your experience is everything that you need. Some people will need to use their nursing license to build a business that is, let's say, an IV hydration business. If you want to do like aesthetic nursing on the side in partnership with an NP or a physician, yeah, you're going to need to use your nursing license for that. But other than that, it's about taking your experience, what you've seen, the problems you're skilled at solving, and to leverage that as a way to be able to add value to people. Fegni, I like what you mentioned here, where you've helped a few nursing friends get jobs working from home. Don't worry, I've got a good slide for you coming up to show you just how valuable that skill set is. It's going to shock you. Myth number 3, it is unethical to charge for the knowledge you have gained as a nurse. Oh, and this one's a tough one. This one's a tough one because what happens when you bring or when a patient brings in something for you specifically, let's say that it's the last day, the patient's getting discharged, you've worked well with this person throughout their admission, family comes in, they loved you, you really worked well with them, they're going to bring a gift just for you. Sometimes they'll try to tip you. Sometimes they'll bring a big elaborate gift that's just for you, a card just for you. And what happens? We're like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I can't accept that, but I will definitely go ahead and share it with the team. Or if it's, let's say, a like a gift card, for example. You know what? We'll go out and we'll get donuts for the whole team with this. Thank you so much. The reason why we have to be sheepish when it comes to being compensated for the value we've added to other people's lives as nurses, anyways, is because if you choose to accept that gift, you will be fired. And this is something that we need to overcome if we are going to be able to create the type of income that we're talking about here. There is nothing wrong with charging for your expertise as a nurse. Say it with me, y'all. There is nothing wrong with charging for my expertise. And I really like what you are mentioning over here, Yue. Nurses were historically contractors prior to insurances and hospitals becoming nurse employers. I did not know that. I learned something new here today. Thank you. That's so interesting. And that makes perfect sense to me. Look at the value that we add. That makes perfect sense to me. That's good. I appreciate that. You do deserve to be compensated for your value, for the work you do. And yeah, we get paid by the hour, but I know that many of us were playing the role of a therapist, we're playing the role of IT, we're playing the role of environmental services. Sometimes we're being counselors, sometimes we are lawyers. We be doing everything in a single shift. And we just say, oh, yeah, I'm just doing my job, not realizing that any one of those roles that I mentioned, people build entire careers around, and they all make more money than nurses. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So what are these 3 steps that it takes to be able to build a business? These are the same steps. I'm not holding anything back. As I said, anybody who takes what we're talking about today and applies it can achieve the same results. How did I build my 6-figure $200,000 in 22 months business? Well, I'm going to tell you. Step 1, assess your value. Discover what makes you uniquely valuable. So in my case, this was my ability to help people interview successfully. Now, in the beginning, like I said, I didn't realize how valuable this was. For me, I have never once in my entire life interviewed for a job I did not get. It's just never happened. Every time that I get to the interview stage, I get the job. I've certainly applied for jobs that they didn't call me for, but in my entire career, and this isn't just as a nurse, this goes all the way back to my days as a good old teenager. For anybody who is in Western Canada, Callaway Park, that was my first job. That was it. That's a real throwback now. I'm making $7.75 an hour. But this is where I started learning that I had something different about me because they offered me the job on the spot. So I was like, okay, I guess most people, they typically don't come this prepared. And so over years, I just honed that, turned it into something that other people could apply. People consistently got results. And that's the secret right there. That's how you know that you're onto something. You give Johnny some direction on how to do it. He's locked in. He figures it out. Give Sally that same information. She also gets the same result. That's how I figured it out. But it wasn't until other people saw what was within me that I really understood I was onto something here. So then that's when I turned it into a standardized process, and the rest is history. So as nurses, the first thing that we always do is we assess. And one of the things that I mentioned in the lead up to today's masterclass is that everybody in attendance will get access to Syndra, my agency development specialist, who excels at taking your experience, skills, nursing passions, as well as the things that you've achieved and turning those into business offers. And so anytime that I'm looking to walk through this with somebody, first thing I ask them, what do people always come to your advice for? And it's not even just colleagues, family, friends, your family members, loved ones, anybody who comes to you specifically to ask about specific outcomes or to get specific advice. That is a clue for you. Where do you consistently achieve results? For me, it was in spotting problems and acting proactively to plug those problems, to address those gaps before they became liabilities. That's a skill set that's worth millions of dollars. Because if Granny takes a tumble because there was some sort of tripping hazard in the way, somebody go and get sued if you're in the States. In Canada, unfortunately, we can't be sued as individual nurses. But what I learned is that being able to proactively prevent problems, ooh, there's a good alliteration, proactively prevent problems is a profitable pursuit. Oh, I just made that up right now. That was good. That was real good. Martin, welcome to the Masterclass. Good to have you. And then lastly, what problems do you naturally solve? For me, I was always having my head on a swivel. When it came to walking the units, when it came to safety. For me, when it came to interview prep, I just assumed everybody knew about the STARS framework: situation, task, action, results, and skills. I just assumed that everybody had multiple stories in their back pocket that I could pull out like a cell phone and say, okay, this is a time that I showed teamwork. This is a time I used problem solving skills to address something I was unfamiliar with. This is how I resolve conflict with a colleague. I thought that everybody knew that, but turns out that that was a premium product waiting to be rolled out. So ask yourself this: what are you known for among your peers? What outcomes are you proudest of? And what could you just teach in your sleep? For me, interview prep is definitely that thing. So here's your action item. Remember, I said that we're going to be taking notes. This is action item number one. 3 sets. Action item set number one. Think, what do your colleagues, friends, family ask you for? Okay. List your top 3 career and personal wins, and then identify problems that you solve regularly. I hope y'all were right. This is important. It's going to be on the quiz later. Step number 2, turn your knowledge into a validated offer. Now, before we move on here, I want to ask, does anybody here who's in attendance have an idea of the sort of business that they already want to start, or have some sort of idea of what that offer might look like? If so, just put it in the chat. Just put it in the chat. I'll tell you all the things I currently offer while we're waiting. Number 1, I offer social media marketing and coaching because I've built up an Instagram to 35,000 in, let's say, I think probably 8 months. I went from 0 followers on LinkedIn to almost 3,000. I have 6,000 on Instagram, almost 4,000 on YouTube. I'm sure that's not crazy, but the fact of the matter is that there are many people who would love to have 30,000, 35,000 followers on TikTok. That would be so grateful to have 3,000 followers on LinkedIn with only 800 connections. Those are things that I realize that I have a skill set in. I also build custom software for businesses. I have also built automations. I've built many tools. I have also done editing for people. I've also just looked at how I can help different businesses implement AI solutions. I build websites. Those are all marketable skills. I've got some great suggestions here. I know, Stephanie, you said that you're not sure yet. Don't worry. I'm sure by the end of today's call, you'll have some ideas. Estelle, group home placement. I definitely know people who are doing that. So that is a validated consulting offer. Naomi started a personal care agency already. Congrats on taking that step. That's powerful. I know many, like dozens of nurses that do that. So it's a validated offer. Medical aesthetics. I think all of us know. Crystal, that's a great option. And Blair, you're not sure yet? Don't worry. By the end of today's call, I'm sure that you'll have one. And shout out to Blair. Blair just signed up for this masterclass like literally probably 15, maybe let's say an hour before this. Follow through. That's what that takes. Fengni, not sure as well. That's all good. I trust that you'll have an idea, or if you don't, then you, by virtue of being here, you'll get access to Syndra, my agency development specialist, and she'll help you figure out your idea, and we'll go from there. Stefano, very good at problem solving, thinking on your feet, bringing calm to the storm. Crisis management. That's a field right there. How would we actually do that? Well, somebody has a situation that's blowing up in their face. You teach them how to navigate that without losing their values, without losing their reputation. That's powerful. Love that. Not sure, but completed your master's in nursing informatics. I wish you and I met before you took that master's. I would have helped you get into informatics without it. Anyway, let me know, are you actually working in informatics right now? But we got some great suggestions. And then we also, hopefully, for those who haven't quite figured out what their idea is going to be, we've got some ideas perhaps, or at least you'll get access to a tool that will help you figure that out. Let's hop back into the presentation. So, how do you actually know if the idea that you have is worth pursuing? Well, let me tell you how I started out. And this is a good example of what not to do. I did not understand my true value in the beginning. I didn't. My very first offer, my very first sale, what turned me into a paid entrepreneur was in November 2023. And it was an $89 a month offer where this person was able to book a call with me once per month. So I'm like, okay, currently at that time, anyways, I was getting paid, I think, $47 an hour in my nursing job. So I'm like, okay, well, if I just double that, then I'll be happy. I'm getting paid twice as much as I was before because this would be a 1 hour call. We do that once per month. That's chilling. That's great. And I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody actually paid me for something that I made up in my mind. It was truly a revolutionary day, and I'll never forget that. Very grateful for that. But that person only lasted 2 months because when you don't pay, you don't pay attention. $89 a month for what I was offering was unbelievably underpriced. So the person didn't value it. They just ghosted. Their payments started bouncing and I never heard from them again. It's all good though. We all got to start somewhere. Then my second offer, March 2024. I will never forget this day. And the reason I will never forget this day is because this was the day I sold my first $1,500 offer. And I was stunned because just a few months previous, I had a less involved offer that I sold for $89. And now I'm like, wow, 1,500. And this was USD. I'm Canadian. This would be worth even more. So that was almost like $2,000 for just 6 weeks of coaching, which would have been 6 1 hour sessions, which I was like, all right, let me pull out the calculator. So I'm like, all right, so that was about $2,000. And if I'm getting paid for 6 sessions, that's $333 an hour. And of course, I was helping this person build their resume and cover letter. So maybe we'll call it even at $250. But now I had gone from $47 an hour to $89 an hour to at least $250 an hour, if not more. I was pumped, but I'm still undercharging. People spend, especially in the States, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 on a degree and don't actually get the result. Like Iwe here, still trying to figure out how to get into informatics. And the reason why is, and this is no dig to you, that's what they tell us to do. If you want to become an informatics nurse, go take a course in informatics. Of course, that makes sense. But the reality is this: you don't get paid based on your education anywhere in the world. You get paid on your ability to achieve results. I'm going to say that again. You get paid on your ability to achieve results. And there are certain requirements. Sure, you can't just start practicing as a doctor and say, I can help people achieve results and I'm going to start. Absolutely not. Can't do that as a lawyer. I read a funny story recently about a guy in Kenya who had won 21 out of 21 cases in court of law. And then they found out he actually wasn't a lawyer. They got arrested and they didn't let him just keep practicing because he was good. Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that the marketplace, meaning society as a whole, the economy, responds to results. That's it. So I like what you mentioned here, Psych 101, the tater tot story, perceive value based on price. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what they're talking about, it's like an experiment where they are allowing people to kind of pick and choose what they believe to be the most valuable. But again, everything is based on perception, right? It's very interesting how that happens. So this was good, but I'm sure some of you are like, man, $250 an hour. I would be amazed if I was making that. So let me then have permission to blow your mind, because this exact same offer that I offered for $1,500, I was thrilled about at the time, and I'm still grateful to this day. In June, I believe it was June of 2024, sold that exact same offer for $6,500. $6,500, which at that time was probably about, I think, 8,400 Canadian, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around that. So I went from $47 an hour when I was working my regular job to $89 an hour in November of 2023 to $250 plus in March of 2024 to now June, charging properly for what I was actually achieving for people. And that, if we say it was, I think it was 8 sessions that I was doing for that one, that is $1,050 an hour. $1,050 an hour. Incredible, right? But I'm sure that many of us would be like, I could never charge that. And if you believe that, you won't. But I didn't start there. You can never charge past your conviction, but just know that the skills you're sitting on are way more valuable than you could ever imagine. There's multiple different ways you can put together programs, one-on-one coaching, group consulting, done for you, digital products. They're all good options. You just got to pick one and run with it. And the way that you validate is to do a little bit of research. And if you're following, you already will have some ideas because people will tell you, they'll give you clues as to how you can go about doing that. Then you start testing to see what the results are, and then you build up your authority. When I say authority, what do I mean by that? This is where you start to actually test out what it is that you're doing and to see if it's actually making a difference. For me, that all started on TikTok. When I started posting on TikTok, I wasn't really doing too much. I didn't have a plan. I just was posting content some days for nursing students. Some days it was content on addiction and mental health. Some days it was on how to do a mental status exam. But then I stumbled upon informatics content. And I did a bit of research and I saw there wasn't anybody in the space who was really posting consistently. So what did I do? I decided I was going to be the one. If you go onto TikTok right now and you search up nursing informatics, I promise you, you're just going to see my face there everywhere. I have the most liked video on TikTok for nursing informatics. How did I get there though? I did research, built up my authority, added value, and that was how I built my business in the beginning, was strictly through TikTok. Instagram is great for building community. LinkedIn, which is my favorite platform right now, is credibility. And then YouTube allows you to build a loyal fan base. Let me just show you a good example of why it is important to understand what it means to build authority online. I'm going to pivot my screen share for just a second here, because now when you go to Google my name, I don't know if anybody else has done this. My wife will often just go and Google my name every now and then just to see what comes up, see if there's anything untoward that pops up. She's hilarious like that. But I started doing that because I'm like, you know what? I'm actually curious, like what actually comes up. So these days, when you go and Google my name, this is what comes up. My LinkedIn first and foremost. Then my website. Then all these pictures of me. This ain't me though. Then there was a time I was doing or trying to get into voice acting. That was one of my other business opportunities I pursued before. Then I've got my school community. Then some of my super high performing LinkedIn posts. This ain't me. And then YouTube, a bunch of videos, and more LinkedIn. This is why it is important to build up your authority. Because when people start Googling you, what do they see? When they look you up, what do they see? Is it just a profile that has no image? Well, that's going to be hard to build trust if that's the case. But again, you already have all the skills that you need to be able to do this. You just aren't leveraging them effectively. So let's talk about how we actually do that. So here's your action plan for this step here. Choose one model that you think would work well for you. Most of you, it should be 1-to-1 in the beginning. Just research and see what people are doing in the space. How many other nurses in the state are doing long-term care consulting? How many other nurses in the state are doing crisis management for healthcare? How many other nurses in your state are doing medical aesthetics? There's going to be plenty, yeah. But see what they're doing. See how you can make it your own spin and go from there. And then step 3, you got to learn how to sell. Oh, this is where I already know that the number of people watching is about to drop off right now. Y'all really thought that you were going to build a business without sales? No, definitely not happening. But guess what? You already have all the skills to be a great salesperson. You do. And I'm about to prove it to you. When a patient, actually, you know what? Let me stop sharing for a second. And I want you guys to answer me well in here. I'm going to take a sip of water. I've been yapping for a minute. When a patient tells you that they don't want to take their medication, what do you usually do? And yes, I know it's one of the 10 rights of medication. So other than just say, okay, yeah, no problem, which none of us would do, I'm sure. When a patient tells you, I'm not taking my medication today, what is your next course of action typically? And then while people are thinking, I'm going to answer Julie's question here. Is there a way to do this faceless? Yeah, there is. as long as you have the ability to add value. One thing I will say is it's a bit trickier to build online authority and credibility with a faceless channel, but you certainly can, especially if you're going to be in the AI space. You can definitely do that. But it's just a bit trickier because when you build a personal brand, people want to know you personally, but it's definitely possible. Oh, we got some good answers here. So Stefano says, what is concerning you about the med? Do a little bit of inquiry, right? Susie says to educate them. Absolutely. And are you doing that because it's going to make you a bad nurse if the patient chooses to exercise their right to refuse medication? Is that going to cause you to get paid less as a nurse? Nope, it won't. But guess what? At the end of the day, you're still going to put in the work to not convince them, but persuade them. Convincing somebody is getting somebody to do something that you want them to do for your benefit. It actually doesn't matter to me in the grand scheme of things. Like, the exception I would say is when I was working in pediatric mental health. If the patient didn't take their ADHD meds, then yeah, it's going to be a busier day for me. But ultimately speaking, it doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. But we'll still persuade them because it ultimately is what is best for the patient. And so you already have those skills. You do this each and every day. Sales is simply persuading somebody to get out of their own way so they can achieve the goal that they said they want. The patient who's not using their incentive spirometer is going to take longer to recover after surgery. And they want to go home. We all know they want to go home. Our goal is the same as their goal. And so we'll encourage them. We'll support them to make it happen. You already have been selling each and every day. Therapeutic rapport, active listening, perspective taking, empathy. These are things that make up the basic building blocks of sales. So you already have these skills. And so I developed what I call the enlightened sales process, which actually leverages all the skills we already have as nurses that we use each and every day to close deals. That is how I made in 22 months, how I made $200,000 is using these skills. You guys have all these skills already. Now you just need to shift your perspective because everything in nursing is sales. So here's what the 90-day path to profit looks like. When I work one-to-one with nurses, the first 2 weeks, depending on the program, is always validating your offer, figuring out what it is that we're going to do. Then we start building authority. We start posting. We start figuring out what it is that people resonate with. We start having conversations with people that we work with, family, friends, our colleagues. Then we start working on acquiring our first client. Yes, it really is that straightforward. And the goal is to create that 5K of income in 90 days. This process has worked many times for many nurses. No reason it won't work for you. Because this is my pathway, right? Started with an $89 monthly session, scaled to $200,000 in 22 months. And so you should be able to do this with the right guidance because I didn't know half of what I'm teaching you guys today. Now, I'm sure that there's some people in the crowd who are thinking, this has been great. I know exactly how to start. That's phenomenal. And I encourage you to take the notes you've written today and run. Start running. Action is the only thing that matters. But I know that there's going to be a greater portion of folks who are going to be in camp number 2, which is, this has been a great masterclass, but I need help in making this happen. Well, let's talk about that. For those of you who are in category 2, I'd like to introduce the Bedside to Business Accelerator. But before that, let's just take a quick pause. At the start of this masterclass, we came into an agreement that if I added value to those of you who are still here, that I'd have your permission to share an opportunity to take what it is you've learned and to actually put it into practice. So first, I just want to ask, have I delivered on my promise, on my end of the bargain, to add value to you in some way, shape, or form? Let me know in the chat. Just say yes. If this has been valuable to you and you feel like I've held up my end of the deal and delivered something valuable, even just one thing valuable to you, say yes in the comments. Okay. Stefano, nice. Vision of Airway, yes. Estelle, yes. Okay. Anybody feel like I have not delivered? Oh, Susie also, yes. Okay. Glad to hear that. And as promised, because I did hold up my end of the deal, and they hold me same thing, I would like to go ahead and now just share an opportunity for those of you who would like to actually take action on what we've talked about today and to show you what that would actually look like. The Bedside to Business Accelerator is a hybrid program, meaning that there's stuff that you'll be working on independently, but that we will do one to one as well as in a group setting. And it gives you the ability to do what exactly? Well, this is for people who are ready to take action, are committed to their own success, are willing to commit 3 to 5 hours per week for 90 days to achieve this, and have access to low four figures of startup capital. Ooh, Ferris and Fegney, glad that this also added value to you. Blair, glad to hear it added value to you too. Excellent. So it looks like we delivered. So this is, I want to be just upfront with who this is for. Ultimately speaking, there is always going to be an investment of time as well as finances to be able to grow a business. And we love to make that happen as quickly as possible because there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to start making that 5K in 90 days. What does the program look like? It offers you the ability to get access to everything that you're seeing here. You can figure out how you're going to be able to start your own consulting or informatics business, even course creation, AI and healthcare, which is what I'm very biased towards, and 85 to 90%, depending on the time of the year. In the summertime, numbers always dip a little bit because people like to, enjoy and live life, which you have to, especially in Canada. There's very, very few months of summer. So we got to capitalize on that while we can. But 85% of our participants are able to launch their businesses in 30 days. The program covers one-to-one coaching, bedside to business course, which is what we start off with. That's how we figure out your idea before we even sit down for our first one-to-one session. You get access to the Position Finder database, which is a database that I have personally curated that gives you access to a steady flow of non-bedside jobs in the US, Canada, and UK. We update the database every single day. Yesterday, we had 30 jobs that came into the database. They're all non-bedside jobs, which is a huge asset. The reason that's important, that I like to just add that in complimentary, is because you need a business building job. If you're working 3 days, 12-hour shifts that are nights, you don't have the capacity to build a business. And that's why we need to make sure that we can get that. So I just add that complimentary. Karamjeet, I missed your comment. I'm glad that I added value to you today too. You also get access to my AI powered tools, as well as access to the conglomerate. You're like, what is the conglomerate? The conglomerate is my pride and joy. It is my group coaching program. We are a network of nurse entrepreneurs that understand that we have the ability to add value to each other, to add value to others, and to shape the world around us. And we support each other in doing so successfully. You also get access to sales coaching, which, of course, I know that you guys are all sales pros in the making because we're all nurses, but needing to learn how to actually make that work is important too. More benefits is getting access to our live weekly coaching calls, that network of nurse entrepreneurs, and access to a step-by-step curriculum. And it also offers ongoing support, which, of course, is crucial because I'm not just, well, you got your business started, that's it. But I know that there are going to be those of you who are asking, will this actually work for me? Like Naomi's got a great question here. Will we get your information after the presentation? Yes, absolutely. I'm about to drop it in the chat here, so make sure you ain't leaving anywhere. Will this work for me? You've heard that, how I've been able to do this. I took my interview techniques and was able to help other people get jobs. People identified that this was valuable and life-changing for them. But you're still asking, can I do this? Will this work for me? And that's a good question to ask. It's a very good question to ask. It's an important question to ask. But I wanted to just really take down this presentation so you can see me directly in my eyes right now as I say this. The real question is not, will this work for me? Let me tell you what the real question is that each and every one of us that are still here should be asking ourselves. The real question you should be asking yourself is, will I work for it? Yes, that's the only question. Because in this day and age where people are going on TikTok and talking all sorts of rubbish, young kids are making dancing videos and have been still to this day and getting paid $1,000 a month for just doing dancing videos. Yeah, entertainment is an important part of what we need to enjoy life. But at the end of the day, what actually matters is this: what it is that each and every one of you are doing at the bedside and the systems that you work in each and every day. That's what actually matters. And so it's time to be compensated for that properly. So that's the question. Will you work for it? If you are somebody who is ready to work for it, here's the next steps. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to book a call with me where we can chat. I always like to make sure that before we embark in investing in anybody's startup, that it is a good fit, because just as surely as you're assessing if this is going to be a good fit for you, I also got to do the same. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop this here. This will be the link for you to be able to actually book a call with me, and my team and I will reach out. We'll have a chat, make sure it's a good fit. There is an application form to complete because, of course, we got to make sure it's a good fit. But what I will say is this: if you're like, everything I've heard today works for me, but the investment is the only piece that you're unsure about it, just reach out. I got my phone number over there. In fact, I'm going to drop my personal phone number in the chat right here for y'all. Go ahead and save this. Reach out to me. Be like, I was in the masterclass today. This is my personal number. It goes directly to my phone. I'm not kidding you. Go ahead and drop that in. Go ahead. Drop us a text if you have any questions. I would love to chat, whether it's over the phone or text message. But the next steps will be for you to click the link I just dropped right there to complete the application, and then we'll see if it's a fit. This is what I want to leave y'all with. Your expertise is valuable. Your expertise is valuable, exceptionally valuable, okay? So it's time that you start being compensated for the true value that you're adding. The way to do that is to take what you've heard today and to put it to practice, to do it consistently, to surround yourself with a group of entrepreneurs or soon to be entrepreneurs that want to do the same thing. You can't be around job people and expect business owner lifestyle. That doesn't work. Because for me, the type of life that I'm trying to live is the type of life where I can say, I'm going to Malta on Friday and it's Wednesday. I'm going to pick up my friends on the way there because I don't want to have to make new friends when I go there. I've been telling my friends for a minute now that they also got to be pulling up and start building their own businesses, because it's going to be boring if I have to make a whole new set of friends. Unfortunately, they've been listening. It's dope to build something meaningful that's making a large difference in your community with other people. It's truly beautiful. Stefano asked a great question. What is the cost? That depends entirely on where you're at. Book a call, fill out the application form. If you have questions about the application form, go ahead and reach out. I see some people already texting me. Excellent. I love that. We'll get back to you shortly. What I want to leave you with is this. Each and every one of us have the ability to add value to others in a way that is deeply unique to us and who we are. And if you choose to not act on what has been placed in your heart, then there are people whose lives you were intended to impact that you will never be able to actually impact. Just think about that. Think about those pivotal moments that brought you to where you are today. Somebody making a comment, somebody extending a hand to you, somebody approaching you for a conversation, somebody helping you out when you really needed it. And think about the ways in which that has changed your life. Maybe that's how you met your significant other. Maybe you've made a lifelong friend. Perhaps a job opportunity came on the other side of that. Maybe you're accepted into a community or introduced to a community that helped you through a hard time. We have all had these pivotal moments where if it was just a little bit later, a little bit sooner, where things would not have worked out the way that they did. My goal is to be that person for as many people as possible. I've been the recipient of so much grace in my life. I've had so many people just help me out, people who didn't even know me, who had no reason to do what they did to help me out. And that's why I'm sitting here before you guys today. And so my goal is to be that person for as many people as possible. But I couldn't do that being beat up by pediatric mental health patients, having to dodge poop that's flying through the air, being forced to use high-level interventions to maintain safety. While that was important and the work that I did is informing the work I'm doing today, the reality is that I knew that there was more I could be doing. So I had to step away from the bedside to look at things systemically and to build systems that allowed me to be able to deliver on that. And that is the road less traveled that has made all the difference. I'm going to go ahead and drop that link one more time. Go ahead, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. I'm going to drop my phone number one more time. If you got questions, reach out, ask whatever questions you need to know whether or not this is the next step for you to take. I always like to say informed consent does not only apply when we're getting consent to treatment for patients, it applies in situations like this. So you need to make sure that you're making an informed decision, whatever that decision is. But just know that whatever dream has been placed in your heart will not disappear. As the Bible says, the heart that has a dream deferred is sick. A dream deferred makes the heart sick. Why is that? Well, it's because you knew what you were supposed to do, and you'll always wonder what if. So don't let that happen to you. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad that this was valuable to you. But most importantly, what will really fill my cup is see those of you who will be coming on this journey along with us. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your evening.